good evening again to everyone. This is Dr. Kid. I'm coming to you from Huntsville, where we do the Shake Up every Monday evening at 6 p.m. At the end of the day, things settle when you start working at the start of the day. When you start working there, things kind of get settled by the time 6 o'clock comes around. So we got to do some shake up. Make sure you still got a little bit of something left in the tank, okay? And of course, the shake up means we don't change the structure of things. We just reframe things. We're in the reframing business, so it looks different, but it's the same. And you'll get that as we continue to go from week to week. And of course, want you to like, follow, share, and subscribe. That is the lifeblood of all good podcasts, and there are a lot of good podcasts out there. I keep shouting for them every week. This is not a thing that I want to monopolize or anything like this. So please like, follow, share, and subscribe this, and all of the good podcasts that you are affiliated with, associated with, okay? Because there's some really good info out there. And of course, if you'd like to be part of the show, just go ahead and contact my office at drkidspeaks@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to get you all hooked up, as they used to say. We're gonna get you on the show. If you'd like to be on camera, that's fine. We love that. But if you'd rather be behind the scenes, off camera, we'll take that too, because we know the information won't change. All right. That's what we like to do. All right. And so listen, this evening, I have this wonderful guest, and she has something. I could tell you what she's going to say, but I have this little intro I want to do. I don't know if I should do it now. I'll just let her go ahead and do it. Because I like when people introduce themselves. They tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I may mess it up. All right. So I'm going to bring my guest on right now. Guests, just come on down, as they say. Sometimes some of these, the price is right.
The price is right.
Come on down. Listen, it is so good. It is my pleasure to have you on. And I know you have this wonderful, a good topic you're going to be talking about tonight. And there is this one of my favorite all-time songs. It's called "Lean on Me."
Mm-hmm.
Lean on me. Sometimes in my life, we all have pain, we all have sorrows. Lean on me, And I think it's really appropriate to what you're going to be talking about this evening, or at some point, anyways. Just lean on me. And so I'm going to ask you now to just introduce yourself and tell us what you're going to be talking about, and we'll just get right into it.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this show. I have been a fan on the sidelines. I do watch Love and Marriage Huntsville, and I've always admired how you deal with the couples, and you don't give it to them raw. And so I just really love that about you. So I'm very humbled and excited to be here on this platform speaking with you tonight. So my name is Norine Fahie, and I am the founder and host of the Save Our Sisters not-for-profit group and the Save Our Sisters Unplugged podcast. Both of the platforms are designed to empower women to share their stories of survival to success. So today, what I would like to talk about is empowering women through storytelling. And then I'll give some tips on how to empower yourself at the end as well. And so the reason why I wanted to choose something like that is there are a lot of times where women are silenced. And of course, if you've grown up in plenty of Black households, what happens in the house stays in the house. And when you do that, a lot of things happen in that house that's not good. It's not healthy. And so you're so conditioned to keep things to yourself that when you get older, you got everything so bottled up that it affects your daily living. It affects your relationships, and it affects your work. It affects everything that you're doing, because now you've conditioned yourself so much to not talk about what has ever happened to you. is that you're just like a soda bottle waiting to pop, right?
Mm,
And so I grew up in a very conservative household where kids are seen and not heard.
mm.
And we grew up with that standard that what happens in the house stays in the house. But when I got older, I gave myself permission to talk about some of the things that happened in the house. And so when I freed myself, I said, I want to free other women. I want them to share their stories. And so, of course, I had to share my story in order for them to understand, hey, this sister has been through some stuff. And so I wanted them to share their stories so they can continue to empower other women to share what's happened. So when they talk on the podcast, they will talk about where they've been, what their struggle is, how they got out of it, and where they are today. And that kind of inspires the whole sisterhood to say, hey, you know what? This has happened to me too. And I understand and I can relate because there's a lot of things that we go through as women that we don't understand that other women are going through it, have been through it. And if we can help the other generation from going through it, why not while we're at it? So
Oh,
we're medals on the ground for women. And I have a passion for empowering women because society just wants to silence us. So that's
Norine,
that on that.
that's the word right there, right? That's the word right there. And I love to say you said you gave yourself permission to free yourself. Gave yourself permission to free yourself. I have this thing that I call that, sometimes when I'm talking to clients, when they find themselves somewhere where their mindset is of such that they're locked into something, there is a way
Mhm.
out. And I call it like the self-imposed prison. And I tell people it's time for a prison break. And it seems to me
Exactly.
that we made a prison break. Listen, it's the only prison. They ain't gonna come after you. The dogs are not gonna come,
Exactly.
So you're free. You're free to do this prison break. So I guess my first question, if I you using my metaphor, if you could, what it was like for you to give yourself permission to free yourself, because if you had to give it, it's clear to me that somebody who should have been giving you permission, however they should have, they didn't. And you said enough is enough. Can you start out with that part, please?
Well, and it's so funny that you use a prison break as your metaphor because I have this thing that I say one woman's story can unlock another woman's prison.
There you go. There you go.
And the reason why I said I gave myself permission is because you're so groomed to do as you're told that when you grow up with it, you're thinking, well, I guess, I still have to continue with this because I have been told that. But now as a big girl, I'm like, I can do what I want now. I can talk about things. I can, and we're in April, so it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I can talk about things. I can talk about some of the things that I've been struggling with, some of the things that I only told my therapist, or some of the things that I've only told my spouse or my good girlfriends, And so I said, I am going to talk about what has happened to me because what people don't realize is when you talk about stuff, it really does free you. It's almost like crying.
Mhm.
It replenishes you and it makes you have a fresh start. And so when I gave myself permission, I freed myself. And so I'm like, well, I'm out. Let me go ahead and grab the other sister, and then she can grab the other sister and we can keep this thing going so that the next generation would know it's okay to talk about what's happened to you. Because when you don't talk about what's happened to you, it's going to continue to happen. When you keep in your secrets and keep in your family struggles and keeping things behind closed doors, people get raped behind closed doors, people get molested, people get, bad things happen, and no one is talking about it. You're being assaulted, you're being taunted, you're being bullied, you're being anything that's not good for your mental health. That's
Mm,
happening when you're not talking about it. And when
right.
you start talking about it, then it gives other people a chance so that they can say, oh, what, you know what? I'm going to start talking about mine too. So it frees other people. And I just love it.
All right. Oh, I just love, I'm just loving this already. But let me say this here though. When you free yourself, and I love what you were saying, I really do. But I like to take a look at some stories behind the stories and some other things. Okay, that goes along with it. So so when you free yourself, not because somebody freed you, but you start out saying, and I understand that some families are very restrictive, they're very cloistered, they kind of box you in,
Hmm.
speak certain things and say certain things. And then when you grow up and you say, listen, I've just freed myself, is there, can there be a cost to you freeing yourself from the family motif, the family belief structure? Can there be a cost sometimes to that for you?
Absolutely. I think there is a cost because once you start talking about your stories, other people that are not free and other people that are in your family that have not freed themselves, they start criticizing you. Well, why are you telling our family business?
There you go.
You know, they're not free and they don't understand. I need to do this for me. Now, you can do whatever you need to do for you, but I'm doing this for me because here's what's happening. I can't relate to my children if I keep things bottled up. I can't teach them certain things without using some of my past trauma as an example for why they should or shouldn't do certain things or act a certain way. So I have to really be very cognizant about what I'm saying, but at the same time, speaking my truth and letting them know I hear what you're saying. I respect what you're saying, but this consequence is yours. The burden is not mine anymore. I
Mm,
have to free myself for myself.
right.
And I suggest they do the same.
Excellent. So I'm just kind of just pushing this a little bit further. I remember that, my wife and I, sometimes, on the weekends, we're just say go for a drive or go to a park, by the river, so we like to do that. And I remember this one time that we went and we got out of the car. And when we got out, there was this very pleasant breeze that came upon us. Okay. And it felt so good. So what I'm saying here, in the car, it was like being locked up because we're driving on the
Mhm.
highway and the windows are up. But when we got out the car and this breeze just came and wafted itself all over us like that, and there was this beautiful experience. And I'm wondering, in metaphor again, if some of the sisters, maybe even yourself, when you get out of this restricted place, like the car was restricted, when you get out and this breeze of freedom just come all over you, does that do something for you? If so, what? Can you talk about that?
Well, when you take, as they say, take the monkey off your back.
Uh-huh.
When you free yourself, it is actually freeing. So you do feel like you can exhale.
Hmm.
I've
Hmm.
said this. I've got this off my chest. I feel much better now that I've told somebody else because in doing that, when I free myself and I say those things, I give myself that permission,
Hmm.
but it also makes me feel like I'm doing something for myself. And that's part of my self love package,
Hmm.
my self love, my self care, my mental health care.
Hmm.
I have to do it for me. So it does feel like a breath of fresh air. It does feel like a fresh shower,
Hmm.
and that's what it feels like. And it just keeps you going. It fuels you. And that's what we need. We need a
Word. I
refresh.
love that word.
Yeah.
Go on with that. Talk about that fuels you. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it fuels you because you walk a little different. Once you've already told your story,
yeah.
once you've told your story, you're empowered. You're going to walk different. You're going to talk different. You're going to act different because you don't need anybody's permission anymore. You've already freed yourself. You've already done what you needed to do for you. And so you're going to walk different. You're going to walk more in your purpose. It
Mm,
fuels you to do different things. Well,
mhm,
if I can tell my story here, then maybe I can speak up to the boss here. Maybe I can assert myself here. Maybe I can even start my business. It empowers you. And that's why, empowerment through storytelling is very important, because that's exactly what it does. It
Mm.
empowers you, it makes you want to do other things. Like, it's even like your narrative. When you free yourself from prison, where are you going? Well, first I want to do this, 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 and this.
Right.
Well, when you tell your story, you're like, wow, that felt great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do this, this, and this, and this. Maybe I'll go to therapy. Maybe I'll invite my children. Maybe I'll go ahead and tell them what I'm doing. Maybe I'll go be a guest speaker at someone's event, and tell them how this was. Maybe I'd want to speak to young girls and let them know that, hey, but maybe some 9 or 10 year olds, because sometimes that's when things start.
Hmm.
This is what you do if this happens to you. You want to empower other people.
So, okay, 6'5", staying in the mental health prison can affect your health, finance, relationship, etc. Yes.
Absolutely.
Can you talk to that for a little bit, please? This mental prison.
It is a mental prison. Bob Marley, the late great Bob Marley, he's one of my greatest artists. He said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind.
Ooh,
We
ooh.
are the only ones that can free us. We are the only ones that can free us. So if we're not going to do it, who else is going to do it? And when we do it, we have to teach the other ones. But it affects your health because, like I said, when you bottle things up, it stays bottled. And then somebody could just catch you on a wrong day and you explode. That could be your spouse. You could
Mm,
ruin your marriage. You could lose your job.
yeah,
You could break up a relationship with your child. You could use your good girlfriend over it. It does. 6'5" is on point.
right.
It affects everything.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Thank you for that 6'5". Thank you so much. But listen, you're talking about explode. So true story. True story, real quick. These people had moved into a new community from out of town. Okay, so they moved their whole house into this, and they wanted to be the one to invite their neighbor to come on over, the ones who just moved in, to come on over and
Mhm.
see our new house and everything. So yeah, not we're doing good. And it was back in the day when they had those traditional pressure cookers. So, so it's putting all the stuff in the pressure cooker, all this kind of stuff. And then she discovered that the little weight on top,
Uh-huh.
she didn't have one. She couldn't find it. And so she, her neighbor was there, and the neighbor said, "Oh, I got a pressure cooker." She said, "Oh no, I don't have to use." She said, "Okay, why don't you just let me use the weight on the top?" Well, the thing about that is, listen, that the person who was moving in, her pressure cooker was smaller than the person who lived there for a long time.
Okay.
And so the weight on top, the PSI, pounds per square inch, in this smaller pressure cooker, it required a lighter weight. And then they were having, everything was going great. And then the pressure cooks built so much, the whole thing exploded because it wouldn't let the weight dance.
Yeah.
It needed more pressure. Yeah. And when you talked about, listen, people explode when things are bottled up. It brought that back to mind. So as you're talking to some of your sisters, are there moments when they feel like they are like a pressure cooker? They got this weight on top. The weight might be your boss, your spouse, the law, all kinds of people. You're at school and it's your professor. It's that weight that's stopping you from dancing and feeling good. Do you find some of your sisters in any of those kind of conditions that you would?
Yes, I absolutely do. There's a lot of people that are in that because no one is holding space for them to actually have the conversation. Some
Okay.
people, they either don't know how to hold space for you, or some people just are not equipped to receive all of the heavy baggage that you're going to be bringing for them.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so then you hold it. And so you're pressurized. It's only until you meet that person that you click with, that makes you feel safe enough to share what has happened to you is when you can start stripping down your layers and start sharing your story.
You know,
You
I
know,
yeah,
that safe space is important because you
mm,
want to make sure that that person that you're telling, they're not going to weaponize your story and use it against you later on. So that trust definitely has to be built earlier on in order for that conversation to go well and for that relationship to actually grow, because once you've shared with someone, you're bonded with them, you
yeah,
know.
yes, yeah. And I like something you said that you said when you feel safe. I love that word. And I think you said it in the right order. You establish the need for safety before you establish trust, and I really love that. We had a puppy here at one time, a little puppy, grew up to be a big dog after a while. And our grandchildren, especially one of them, they would not go close to that dog when that dog started to grow. Why? Because they didn't feel safe, so they couldn't
Yeah.
trust. But when they felt safe was when they discovered that the dog wouldn't bite them, so they could trust the dog. So here it is. So how does safety come in with you and some of these systems? We're going to talk about the empowerment part in just a little bit. How does safety come in with some of these sisters? Because, like, you're right, if they don't feel safe, they can't trust. So how do you provide this emotional safe place for them?
Well, see, the one thing that I do, because safety is very important to me.
Okay.
And so the same things that I need, I try to provide for other people. Sometimes it's not about you. Sometimes you just need someone to just listen to what you're saying.
Hmm.
They don't need to talk about what they've been through. Just let you get it all out. Just let you get it all out, especially if it's traumatic.
Hmm.
So when you make that person feel safe, then they start to trust you and then they would share. And then you can incorporate what you've been through to let them know. See, with mine, when I first started, the first meeting that I had for Save Our Sisters was on domestic violence. And I had a room full of women. I think the first meeting might have been like 15 or 20 women in there. And I shared my story. So I was like, if I'm going to make it safe for them to share, then I have to let them know I trust them to share with them. So once they saw that I could trust them, then one by one, each lady started sharing her story. Each lady started sharing her story, and it was just this vibe in the room where it was, you could just tell it was nothing but shared sisterhood. I always talk about that first meeting because that first meeting set the tone for all the other meetings. Of course, COVID happened, and then we had to move everything online. But that first meeting when we shared, it was amazing. It was amazing. And I had all the women. I said, raise your hand if you've ever been in any type of domestic violence relationship. Whether it be a spouse, a friend, or partner, whatever. There was only one young lady that had not ever had that out of all of us, and
Mm,
that was amazing to me. And so we just really created that forum. And when you create that platform of safety where you feel like what happens here stays here,
mm,
it,
mm,
no one's going to judge you. We've all been through some stuff. We have. And sometimes when we look at other women, sometimes you side eye them. I just did, my latest episode was why women are always side eyeing each other. We side eye people when we don't know what's happening within them. But when you sit down and have a conversation with them, you find out you have so much in common. And in that room that day, we had so much in common. I
mhm,
had close friends that I had known for years. I didn't know what they went through.
mhm,
I did not know that they went through that, because when you have a group full of women that are sharing certain things, it just starts a domino effect. Yeah, I went through that too, and this is how I handled it, you know?
mhm,
And so that's what really creates that, and creating that safe environment where they know that no one is going to judge them and they can just speak freely. That sets it off.
Yeah. Listen, that's real. Oh man, this is so good. For those of you that are just coming on, we have Norine with us, and she is an amazing person. She's got a story to tell, and she's schooling us this night. So let's go on out, share, like, share, subscribe, and tell other people that's followed. Get them all out here to hear this story. Okay. So listen. What about this word validation, and especially self validation? Is there room in that in your organization to bring people, some of these women, to self validation so that they can validate other people? I mean, is there room for that? How do you work with?
There's always room for that. There is always room for that. But I think the first step is always looking within. Once you give yourself permission, you validate yourself. You don't need anyone to validate you. I always tell people that I don't care what you think. I don't care what you think. I validate myself. I don't need you to validate me. I don't need you to tell me I'm smart, pretty, beautiful. I don't need you for that. I just need you to respect me. So when you have that, and women are, of course, women are more than welcome to bring that in. We want you to validate yourself. And if you don't know how to do it, as a group, as a sisterhood, we'll all figure it out together. That's pretty much what we'll do. And that's what we have been doing. So even if it's in a group setting or Save Our Sisters, or if it's on the podcast, validation is key because you want people to know, hey, I've been through this and I know I may not know your exact experience because I haven't had your exact experience, but this happened to me. And so I can relate because I always feel you never want to say, I know what you're feeling. Even if you have the same experience, you never know exactly how someone is feeling because people
Right,
react to things differently.
right.
And so I always, yes, validate. Yes, I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I see where you're coming from. You know, this is your truth. You have every right to how you feel. Validation is important.
Mhm, mhm. And some people don't think they have the right to their experience.
Yeah.
And we all talk from a place of experience. And sometimes people would try to downplay or experience. And you, you know, so when you're talking to some of your women and they're talking about their experience, not necessarily to you, but to other people, and people try to put them down, do they ever talk about what it feels like to be pressed down, like pushing them down, what that might feel like? And
Yeah.
in contrast with the breath of fresh air that you're giving them to elevate them.
It becomes a self worth issue.
Yeah.
It really does. Because when you've been conditioned that you shouldn't tell or you shouldn't feel this way, a lot of women in society sometimes they say things and they don't realize how far it goes with some people. Like in a previous marriage, someone told me, "Oh, you don't need 10 minutes break." When I was married, I'm married, I come in, I go right into the family. It's like, come on. I need the 10 minutes. I have to decompress from work and then I have to go into the household, deal with a husband and three children. I need that. If she had said yes, you know what? Please take that time because I can understand you're going to need to just regroup after work, put on your mom hat, your wife hat, and go into that. I think supporting each other and validating, as you said, each other will actually really strengthen the sisterhood. It really would.
Yeah, you're right, but I'm just wondering if sometimes when somebody wants to come home from work and just go right into the other responsibility, they're basically negating themselves. And sometimes I wonder what are you trying to hide? What are you trying to run away from? Something about you don't want to have to deal with. So you go on and say you excuse yourself from yourself, and you go over here talking with with the family and doing all the right things. Got to take care of the kids, the spouse, the house, the dog, all this kind of stuff. All of those are good things. But I'm with you. Sometimes you just need a place
Yeah.
you can go and scream out loud in your mind if that's what you have to, you know.
Whatever you need to do to just get to the next task. If you go from task to task to task, you're not giving yourself a break. And then that's where you're going to start screaming at other people because you're still wound up from work. You don't know what has happened to work.
Okay.
And at the time I was working a suicide hotline at work, and so that definitely needs some coming down from,
Hmm.
because you people tell you a lot of bad things that are happening. You We literally had to talk this lady out of you know exiting herself.
Talk them off the
And
ledge,
we
they say, right?
Yeah, we had to talk him off the ledge. We had to really talk her off the ledge, and in the middle of talking her off the ledge we lost contact with her, and so we didn't know what happened.
Oh my.
So we had to send the cops to her house. So when people have jobs where they need to do that,
Hmm.
you definitely need, before you take your next step, you need to really check in with yourself and see, okay, it didn't happen to me directly, but I just want to check with myself to make sure I'm okay. Because you want to be a best self for your family. You
Right.
don't want to just run into stuff. And so the lady that told me that, she didn't really understand that because she was old school, and that's one of the things that we need to do is break down some of those barriers of how women were, then how women are now, and how we address our relationships now, and the things that we know that we should have had back then. Like in my mom's days, I just had a conversation with a good girlfriend of mine the other day about the evolution of women, where women in my mom's age, the baby boomers, they didn't know that they had those rights to take that time. So they just went from one thing to the next, because then they would look down on. And so that woman was from that generation. And I'm like, well, that's all well and good if that works for you, but I'm taking 10 minutes before I address my family. I'm going to wind down, I'm going to put my purse on the table, put my keys down. I'm going to take 10 minutes and I'm going to wash my hands. Exactly, Miss Desiree. You have to take care of yourself or you're going to burn yourself out. And that's what I have always been telling. I sleep in. I sleep in and I don't care. Some people say sleeping in is at 8 o'clock. I'm like, that is not sleeping in.
Come on now, sleep
That
in.
is not a sleep in. That is a cat nap.
Oh,
But I would sleep into like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. That's a sleep in to me.
as a sleep in, right?
Yeah, that's a sleep in. Because if you don't replenish your body, if you don't rejuvenate, you're not going to be your best self.
Right, right.
And that's the goal. You have to be your best self in every aspect. So taking that 10 minutes from work and decompressing and then dealing with your family, yeah, you need that space in between to just take care of yourself first and then just go ahead and take care of everybody else.
Okay. So
And I don't
so
think there's anything wrong with that.
no, absolutely not. So here's my question. However you want to answer. It's one thing for you to do this, what you're doing, is that what it's saving our sisters, yeah, empowering our
Hmm.
sisters, empowering our sisters. It's one thing for you to do that because the sisters need empowering, or there's something about the sisters. But all desires and wants and ideas come from the inside where it does something to you, come out of your own experience. So so I was just wondering to whatever degree you want to talk about, what was it about you as you looked into the mirror of your experience? What was it about you that said, you know, I would like to, because, and the because can be for whatever reason, all these women, because we all come from a place of, I've been, I'd like to, I'm where I am. So what was going on with you then? I mean, say, listen, I want to empower, because you know that's a bountiful word. It's a bountiful and
Yeah.
beautiful word. Bountiful is so large to empower somebody, if to give them power. And it's almost like the power is here, but that you open the door. So what was it about you that would make you do that?
You know, I'm such a simple woman. It's because I wanted to be empowered. I
Oh,
wanted to be empowered. And so you have to rescue yourself. And so once I rescued myself, I wanted to rescue other women. I went through a period of my life where I didn't talk. I was younger and I didn't remember it until one of my sisters came to visit me and she was telling my husband that. I'd forgotten all about that period of my life. But she reminded me, she was like, yeah, she went through a time where she never talked. And I never talked. I didn't trust anyone. And so once I built myself up, I wanted to build other women up. Because I was like, how many other women are out there feeling the way I feel? Like they're going through stuff and no one to talk about it with. And so I didn't know when I started Save Our Sisters and the Save Our Sisters Unplugged podcast, I didn't know how far it would go. I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't know if anyone was going to show up to the meetings. I didn't know if anyone was going to listen to the podcast. I didn't know. I just did it. I felt called to do it and I just did it. And so I just wanted other women to know that, listen, Big Sis is out here looking out for you. Come tell me what's going on with you because I want you to be free. I want you to be okay. And I want you to have the best tools for you to empower yourself and for you to pass that empowerment on to the younger generations, the millennials and the Gen Zs. I want them to have that empowerment. I want them to walk in their power. Because when you walk in your power, you walk different.
oh yeah, yes, 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 yes. Yeah, I appreciate, man. This is some really good stuff here. Really, really good. I want to go back to the baby boomers. It was a whole different mindset
Yeah.
then. Women were, and I'm trying to be nice about it. Women were in some kind of a universal slavery, if I can put it that way. Was it was like the men were at war, so women had to go into the workforce, all this kind of stuff, and come home and take care of the kids and all of this. And then when the men came home, they'd throw their hat on the hook and they'd just sit and wait to be served. It's kind of a servitude that went on. But and they grew up with that, so they kind of knew about that.
Right.
You know, but then there is this whole shift now. Gen X, Gen Z, millennials. I mean, um, some of the women that you have in your groups, that you do they come from various generations, bringing different kinds of experiences? And how do you deal with that when you have all these colliding, a kaleidoscope of different types of generations going on?
So the first women's empowerment luncheon that we did was in 2023,
Okay.
and there was four generations of women in that crowd.
Ooh.
And when we had it structured as a panel discussion, and one of the most mind-blowing things that I actually encountered was the room was kind of divided. The question that I asked, and it was the question for the millennials and on down. When I asked them, how can we bridge the gap between Gen X, boomers, and the millennials and the Gen Zs? And a millennial spoke up and said, stop judging us. We want your leadership. But if we come to you and we're not dressed the way you feel that we should be dressing, you judge that and it silences us. And that was powerful because I've had that happen to me. You miss the opportunity to teach when you lead with judgment. And so those four generations of women, they spoke up. And the way God works is everyone was receptive to that conversation.
Okay. Good.
That
Good.
that discourse between the separate generations of women, it actually put bricks on the bridge. It built the bridge, because we have a lot to teach, but I have to say sometimes we do lead with judgment. They want to come to us, but they're coming to us where they are, how they are, and we need to just accept them and just love them and give the guidance because they want it. But because there's been so much judgment, then you don't get the opportunity. Those are missed opportunities. And so we need to really come together with that. We need to really lead with the wisdom and lead with the love instead of leading with the judgment,
Mm.
because we don't want to be divided as women. And especially in the climate of the world now, more than ever, women are losing control. It's like we're shifting back to the 50s where women didn't have a voice. Pretty soon, I'm going to have to put my pocketbook, my checkbook away because I'm not going to be able to write one without my husband again. This is how it seems like it's going. I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but
I hear
th-
you.
those what the evolution of women. That's what was going on back then. Women couldn't open a bank account without their husband's permission. We couldn't do anything without our husband's permission. And now we have that freedom to do that and just be who we are, how we are, meet women where they are. And that's what we need to continue to do.
Uh, yeah. Um, but let me just kind of, and I appreciate that. Let me just kind of continue this. But there is a natural phenomenon that's just a natural for different people from different generations to clash.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to hold a position. And
Yeah.
this is where we have to meet in the middle. We have to, at that meeting, that's where we all met in the middle. And we were able to hear each other. And people were able to see where they fit into that narrative.
Okay. Now, in doing that, where is it easier for that to happen if they abandon their pigeonhole to say this is who I am here, Gen Z, Gen X, the millennials. If you abandon your pigeonhole because you get locked into pigeonhole behavior, if they stay in the pigeonholes, how are they going to be able to unite and come together like this?
Well, if they hold their position, they're not going to learn anything.
Okay.
And the whole point of that meeting was for women to learn from each other. How can we come together as women to empower and inspire the next generations of women? And to talk about, well, your generation judges us, and this is how it makes us feel. This is what we need from you, because again, another question was asked, what do you need from us? Space, time, knowledge. We want it. We want your help. And then, of course, the older ladies were able to say, okay, I see where we fit in. But, we also, even in us having that discourse and coming to a consensus on, yes, this is a good conversation, we still have to address how you come to us. You can't come to us disrespectful and think just because you have something to say that I'm supposed to sit and listen to it if you're not being respectful. Because that was our grievance. You come disrespecting me. If you disrespect me, you're not going to learn from me. I'm not going to want to teach you because I'm going to feel like you don't have the capacity to learn.
Mm.
So it's a two-way street, right? We shouldn't judge and they shouldn't disrespect. We have to have mutual respect in order for this to work, and mutual understanding. And even if we don't agree, even if we lock horns, we have to walk away, agree to disagree, and still keep the sisterhood alive.
Mm. Now, Now, talking about these various generations, and I think that each generation might have learned something from the previous generation that they really should not have, because with our children, if our children are growing up and we are rearing our children, growing our children, okay, at what point do I miss my children because they have been transformed into some other kind of kid I didn't even know, when they are really living in my household, eating my food, wearing the clothes I put on their backs, talking the way I talk, but all of a sudden they are totally different. And I'm thinking, and I'm going to switch over. I'm thinking about social learning, what they learn out there, and especially in schools when they go
Yes.
see all the other things going on. It's easy.
And culturally, it's always a struggle to raise your children too, because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I think my struggle was being a Caribbean American and having to raise my kids in America with the American standards and the different ways that they do things. And we grew up in a thing where you're seen and not heard. You can't answer your parents what. They call your name, Norine, what? Oh, that, no, we don't do that. But I heard a lot of that here, and my kids going into school with children that did that, and they bring it home. It makes my parenting a little bit harder because I'm like, whoa, 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 we don't do that here. So the culture actually plays into how this thing works as well.
So does this, do you kind of go into some of these things when when you're talking with the women in your group, and what are some of the kind of unique stuff that they bring to some of their meetings, and they just want to just leave it here and just unburden themselves? What are some of the unique stuff that they bring? If you can
Because
talk, I know confidentiality is important. I understand.
yeah, well, broad, yeah, I would never tell anyone secrets. But one of the unique things is they never knew that they could just come to somebody else and just talk because of that stigma. What happens in a house stays in the house.
Okay.
If you haven't really given yourself that permission, or if you keep your mind conditioned to what you've been taught, then you're not going to expand it. And so even with the women of the previous generations, they endured a lot more because, well, first of all, if you have 9 children and your husband is the breadwinner, what are you going to do if you have something going on in your household? You endured more. But our generation, we're like, no, we're out.
Mm,
We're not taking that. I think every generation gets stronger than the last one. Whereas we know what our rights are, we know what we can and can't do, we know what our boundaries are, and we're not going to endure a lot of those things. So the women, they come in and they bring their unique situations, and they want to talk about it, and we're just here for it all. We want to know what they're going through because we want to help them through it. Some people have been healed, they've gone through therapy. And I've even had one lady that she shared her story for the very first time, something that happened to her as a child. She never told a soul. And she shared it for the first time on my podcast.
mm.
But she was so nervous about it because she was wondering, well, okay, if I tell, well, what are people going to say? And I said, listen, this thing can go however you want it to go. So, we spoke about it, and I said, listen, this is your voice. This is your story. No one can tell you you can't tell your truth. And she felt calmed down enough to go ahead and go through with the interview. So it was a good thing. But I was glad that I was there. I'm glad I was able to be there for her in that way, to encourage her that, listen, don't matter. It doesn't matter what they think. Don't mind them. You have to take care of you. You have to live with this. And if you're at a point where this thing is eating at you, then you need to talk about it.
Okay.
You need to talk about it, and of course, seek a good therapist.
Listen, Norine. This has been so good. As the time just ran by, and I
Oh wow.
really appreciate your input into this. And but I got one last question for you, okay? And
Hmm.
then you have a couple of things to talk about too, right? About what you're
Yeah, I
doing.
want to share some tips for empowerment.
Okay, all right. So let me ask this question, and you can do that. Okay. The, there is no doubt that the women who comes to you because of your dynamism, they're going to change.
Mhm.
Now they change, and they go home. After a while, they go home to a husband who has not changed and don't understand how they have changed. They go home to children who used to be able to throw their stuff all over the place, and now mama's saying, no, no, okay. And then they go home to they still have parents, and they got a whole different posture.
Right.
So these people have changed, but look how many people their change is impacting negatively or positively. We hope, what happens to those women who are going through the change process that you are so ably putting them through, and then
Well, you know what?
they
It's
go
it's
home
just like
and stuff.
it's just like if you're in a home as a Christian person and your spouse or your children are not saved.
Uh-huh.
You know how they say they have to see the God in you?
Uh-huh.
Well, they have to see how you're empowered and you have to exude it. You have to stand 10 toes down on your beliefs. At some point, they're going to be like, oh, well, mom's different. Yeah, this is the new mom. Take her or leave her. She's here to stay because these are my expectations. You can't be so afraid to draw a line in the sand and state your boundaries. There's a lot of people that don't know that they're crossing boundaries. It's because you don't tell them. And you have every right to tell people, hey, you're crossing a boundary. Like what you're saying is coming off like sandpaper to me, and I don't like it. You cannot be afraid to set boundaries. And a lot of people don't know that.
Right.
And when they are empowered and they start setting those boundaries, then you should get different results.
Yeah.
You should get different results.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. So they just have to ease their people into it. Pray about it. God will guide you. Ease your folks into it. Don't go in like a bull in a china shop. I
Oh,
wouldn't suggest that. But you have to just let them know, listen, I may have allowed this before, but I don't like how it makes me feel. And this is what I need to do now for myself. I don't like what you're saying and doing, and I need for you to stop. If I don't set boundaries with you, you're going to think it's okay. And it's really not. And it's eating me up inside to have to say this to you. But this is where we're at. And just deal with it. Don't be afraid to have the tough conversations. Have them. Those are very important.
whew. Oh, cool. You,
Oh, coach.
go ahead, please.
So
Go ahead,
so
young
so
girl.
Save Our Sisters is we are formulating a mentoring program, and I teach people to love who they are, where they're at, love their hair. Listen, I know I have my braids in, but it's all natural under hair. So we have to love who we are. We can't love other people authentically if we don't love ourselves authentically. It comes from within. So yes, I do.
Thank you
I
for that,
do. Thank you
Coach.
for your question.
Oh, Desiree, good stuff. I'll
Oh,
be
thank you,
into the
Desiree.
organization. What's the link? Listen, so now here, this is a good place for you to say, hey, listen, these are some of the things that I'm doing. This is some of the things that I want you to be aware of that I'm doing, and give them your link and everything else. So go at it. You're going to have the last word on this.
So on Facebook, since this person is on Facebook, we have a group called Save Our Sisters SOS group that you can join. Once you hit the join button, we'll we'll go ahead and approve you. There's a couple questions you answer just because we want to have group rules. We want people to engage, and we want people to share authentic stuff. Talk about the things that's been going on with them. It's a sisterhood. It's a very private group, so it's not just any and everybody can get into it. And it's because we want to protect the authenticity and the secrets and the things that women are saying in the group, and we want to share and uplift things. So on Facebook, it would be our Save Our Sisters SOS group. On Instagram, it's at Save Our Sisters underscore SOS. And of course, my YouTube channel would be Save Our Sisters SOS. you know Subscribe, follow, share, as Dr. Kit says. And of course, if you want to be on the show and be engaged, you can definitely email us at saveoursisters2020@gmail.com. We take all questions, and, we love to have people ask us stuff. So even if you want to be on the show, be on there we go. If you want to be on a podcast, and you're not sure if you want to share, or whatever you want to do. And now we're accepting men because we want to leverage men as allies.
Oh,
I've
I
done
see you on there.
Yes, yes, because the thing is, the whole point of it is for women to learn the lesson. And I think hearing the men's perspective is very crucial. And so we've had a couple men on already that have shared their fatherhood stories. And let me tell you, I was like, man, ladies, we got to do better. We've been putting these brothers through it, and so and so it's for the women to learn the lessons. We need to know as women how our behavior affects our partners, our spouses, or the male collective, so to speak. And so we wanted to really do that. I wanted to do my tips before I do the event that we're having. Is that okay for me to do?
How
it's
you
my it's my world. You're just in it. So
go
I
ahead.
wanted to.
Right
I
ahead.
put together some tips for self empowerment, because I think it's so important. So the first tip is to take your voice back. This was very important to me. As I said, that there was a moment in my life where I didn't talk to people, I didn't trust people. I was very quiet, I stayed to myself. No one would probably believe that now because they probably dubbed me as a chatty Cathy. But when you have something powerful to say, you have to say it. So you want to take your voice back, because there's going to come a time where you're going to have to stop asking for a seat at the table and build your own table. Don't mute yourself for the sake of someone else's comfort. Say what needs to be said, even if your voice shakes, and stand 10 toes down on it. The second thing is, I spoke about it a little bit earlier, set boundaries and stick to them. No is the full sentence. Some people don't understand no, but they're going to learn today. You don't owe anyone, access to your energy. You got to protect your peace. I've always been saying that. I've been taking up yoga. Protect your peace like your life depends on it, because it does. Then you want to give yourself grace. We beat ourselves up every single day. We do one small thing, we're like, oh man, I could have done this better. And I'll raise my hand. I do that. I like things to be just the way it went in my head. And sometimes when it doesn't go the same way it went in my head, I can't get out of it. So give yourself grace. You're not your past, your mistakes, or your off days. Speak to yourself like someone you love. Healing isn't always perfect, and that is okay, because you can't grow if you're too busy beating yourself up. And growth is important. Celebrate your wins, big and small. It doesn't matter if you got out of bed this morning because you've been, going through a depressive state. Man, that's a win. You got out of bed. You know, Finish a task you've been putting off. You know, your huge wins are your huge wins, and your small wins are your small wins. Either way, it's a win, and just celebrate every step of the way.
Mm.
Don't take it as if you're bragging. No, a win is a win. Take it. Watch your circle. Listen, this one here spoke to me. You got to watch your circle. You got to really be very cognizant of the people that you're surrounding yourself with. The people should be pouring into you, not draining your energy. You got to surround yourself with women who clap when you win and correct you when you're off. If I can't cover you and correct you, then we have to really check our friendship. Because if you're doing something great, I'm there for you. But if you're doing something wrong, I'm there for you, but you're not going to like it. Because I'm going to correct and be like, sis, you know, you shouldn't have done that. I don't like how you did that. You have to just watch your circle, watch who's coming into it, watch who's pouring into you. Because, like they say, you are what you eat, or you are what they say, you are judged by the company you keep. That's a true statement.
Mm.
And then you want to stop comparing yourself to everyone else. What's for you is for you. You don't need to copy anyone's journey to be successful on yours. Your lane is valid. Stay in it. You know, your timing is divine. You know, stay focused on your real life. And then I only have a few more. Show up authentically. You know, take the mask off. Let your hair down. You don't need to perform to be accepted. The right people is going to love the real you, and the wrong ones can just exit. Stage left. Period. Ask for help and receive it. A lot of us don't know how to ask for help. We wait until things get so bad that the help is going to be so great. Ask for the help. You don't have to carry the load alone. Let your tribe in. Strong women aren't the ones who suffer in silence. They're the ones who knows when to lean on love. And that's what the sisterhood is there for. You got to lean on us when you need us. Invest in yourself. Read the book, take the course, go to therapy, get the massage. Do all the things. Growth requires intention and a little self care budget. You are
Mm.
your greatest asset, and you have to start treating yourself like it. And my last one is my favorite one: trust in God's timing.
Ooh.
Everything in God's time. And everything doesn't have to happen right now. Sometimes the delay is the protection. So sometimes when you're like, oh man, this car is cutting me off, it's going to make me late. That might be God protecting you from something that happened. You got to trust it. Breathe. What's yours is already written. It just needs you to be ready to receive it. So, in essence, you're not late. You're in alignment. And you just have to really accept that.
Woo.
So, those are my tips.
Norine Fahie, you are some kind of a person, man. Listen to y'all out there. Like, share, share. It's like, I'm kind of a, you know.
When you can laugh at yourself, that's amazing.
Tell everybody about her, okay?
Like, share, follow, subscribe.
I know. I was going to this thing so fast, I just messed it up. Tell everybody about her because she's an amazing woman and she wants to save their sisters. She wants to point them in a new direction. And that, you know, based on her, the way she presented herself this evening, she can do it. Norine, I'm going to send you out back there for a minute, and we come on back out there and join you. I'm just going to close this thing down. And listen, thank you so much. And I thank those of you that are online who showed up here this evening to listen to my guest this evening on the show. All right. All right. So if you can see here, there is a mother-daughter lunch free event Saturday, May 10, 2025. Okay, at
Yes.
12 p.m.
Yes.
12
So
p.m.
this is our mother daughter event that we're gonna do, and it's a free event for the community to come out. You know, we need to really celebrate the mother daughter relationships, and you know, sometimes we as women, you know, our first example of what women are is our mothers. And
Mm.
when that relationship is strained, sometimes they say you're not a girl's girl because you didn't learn. And so strengthening those bonds is super important. So it's Mother's Day weekend. You know, we want to just have a brunch and you know, just have a few time, just a few hours in the afternoon to just fellowship with each other and just really just love on each other and build our sisterhood. So if you're in the Peoria, Illinois area, you know, join us for lunch. Let's do it.
Oh, wonderful. But listen, it's too cold up there, okay?
Well, it's warm now.
Oh, yeah, you're right, Illinois. Yeah,
I mean, we've got 60 degrees today.
you're in a heat wave up there.
I'm telling you, this is a heat wave.
Oh, listen, it's been my pleasure. Okay, it's been my pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. I am humbled.
I tell you what, I want to keep up with this women's group that you have, and of course I'll be able to keep in contact with you. And I'm hoping that a lot of the women that you know, and just the people that's been online, please, like, follow, share, and subscribe, because it's been a very powerful session this evening. I thank you, Norine. All right.
You're welcome.
I really do. All right. So thank you all so much. And that's it for today, folks. I had a wonderful guest, and I hope you enjoyed it. So just go ahead and like, follow, share, and subscribe. And it is the lifeblood of this and every podcast. All right. That's a really good podcast out there. And information is free. So go ahead and grab it while you can. All right. Before this, we don't want to start censoring all this good stuff now. We just want to make sure that we have a good platform. So thank you so much for being here with us. And God bless you. And God willing, and if I am able, I will see you again on next Monday with another episode of The Shake Up with Dr. Kit, where we don't change the structure, we just reframe it. Just put the picture in a new frame, same old picture, looking good, looking better, okay? Thank you so much. We'll see you on next week. Bye-bye now.